We're here at the Web 2.0 Summit in San Francisco, and I'm here with Hilary Mason, Chief Scientist at Bitly.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going really well.
So I gather it's going even better since you just came off stage and got to talk a bit about data, shockingly. So one of the things that's come up around this theme is how the different tools, different structures that exist around data may or may not be developed around what people do or how people think or how they use them. What are some of the challenges or needs there?
So we learned a couple of interesting things recently looking at Bitly data. The first one being our half-life study, where we found that there are really two different things that change the way a URL propagates online and the amount of time that people will pay attention to it. And the first one is the content itself, so really timely things move faster. The second one are the dynamics of the network on which it's shared. So if you share something on Twitter, people will pay attention to it for less time than if you share it on Facebook or if you share it on another network. Like we found YouTube has a really long half-life of about 7 hours, where Twitter's about 2.8. So that's a really big difference that comes out of the design of the product. And so what I was talking about today is some of the things we can learn about people from the data they share versus what they read, and how we might design products that sort of enhance that natural desire to share things that make us look good.
So you also used a pretty tasty term too, this idea of geo-relevance in data. Can you explain what that means and what insight you can gain from it?
Sure. So we're looking at the geo-relevance of data to figure out where in the world something is particularly interesting. So are people in New York City paying attention to something but nowhere else, or are people in France paying attention to it? And we use a pretty easy mathematical trick to do this. We build a distribution of the locations where people are reading a given document, and then we look at the entropy, and we're able to say, is this document particularly statistically relevant to a location? And when we do that, especially around things that are of worldwide interest, we find that people read very different content in different places around the same ideas.
Okay, and how do we make that actionable or make it come home to the real world in terms of making it concrete for people?
Well, the first step to making anything actionable is making it measurable, which we're starting to do now. The next step will be finding ways to display and understand it and build products that really let us understand what's going on.
So yeah, Bitly's headed into this world of data science, but also data products down the road too, right?
Absolutely.
It's not just about really cool custom short URLs.
While we love custom short URLs, we're working on things that are somewhat more ambitious.
What's the most ambitious thing you think you're working on?
We're thinking a lot about real-time search of data and the opposite problem, which is having the data that's interesting to you find you at the right time. So we're looking at tracking the phrases and entities that are being read about around the world in real time.
That sounds hard.
It's fun.
Good. Well, fun's an important thing in work.
Yeah.
It gets serious sometimes too, though. All of this, we're talking about huge amounts of data, can tell us unprecedented amounts of things, about ourselves and about other people too, particularly as the friction in sharing goes down. So Facebook has recently introduced something they're called frictionless sharing, and it gets into a very interesting space where if you're reading or watching or shopping, that behavior might then be shared with your social graph. And even if it's not something as explicit or perhaps implicit as that, there's these really interesting discussions going on around identity and your data sharing behavior. And as you get around to energy data or financial data or health data or transport data, all these different places you leave exhaust, how are the insights that you're gleaning changing? How is the perspective you have on the relationship of identity and privacy in a very shared world?
These are really good questions. So I think of identity as the data that you generate and you collect that you promote and share publicly. And privacy is the data that you generate and you collect that you do not want to promote. And so it's a spectrum where on the one side, if you had absolute privacy, you would have no identity. And if you had zero privacy, your identity would be everything about you, which is not necessarily what should be public. And so I really do think that we need to build better tools for analyzing, managing, for being aware of the data that you are making public at any given time.
Okay. Last question.
Okay.
Since you are a bona fide data scientist, what are your 5 favorite tools to work with data?
Awk, sed, grep. No, that'll be just one. I have to say that Bash command line tool set just can't be replaced. After that, I'm a big fan of Python and all of the numerical computing libraries in Python, including things like NumPy, SciPy, scikit-learn, and a lot of the stuff that's started to emerge like pandas. Beyond that, of course, Hadoop is something we use a lot for offline analysis. And I would love to see a more responsive, non-Java version of that metaphor really emerge. After that, I think the other side of data analysis is telling good stories with data, which is something I've been trying to study and get better at. And so there are tools like Gephi and other visualization tools that are just really invaluable.
Cool. All right. Well, people can certainly use the Google and find find them online. Thanks again, Hilary. Really appreciate you taking the time. And if you haven't checked out Bitly, good luck.